Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
Today, Monday, December 14th, is the feast of St. John of the Cross, priest and doctor of the Church. And these are today's headlines. COVID infections and deaths from the pandemic continue to rise, but proposed vaccination campaigns offer a ray of hope. Argentina's bishops are fighting back against a proposed law that would legalize abortion in their country. And the Church marks 200 years in Singapore, with Catholics aiming to renew their faith and relaunch their missionary zeal. In the Vatican, I'm Christopher Wells. Our top story today, the number of infections and deaths caused by the COVID-19 pandemic continues to rise across the globe. But as Linda Bordoni reports, vaccination campaigns kicking off in a number of nations are instilling hope and writing a new narrative that will hopefully bring the emergency to an end and allow for the building of a society that is more just and more sustainable.
With more than 72,300,000 registered infections and over 1,600,000 deaths globally, the emergency caused by COVID-19 is rewriting the rules in the workplace, in family life, in social connections, and changing the way we consume goods and services. Echoed by religious leaders of all denominations, Pope Francis is urging humanity to heal the world by building a more just and sustainable reality for all. The pandemic, he notes, is an occasion to change some of the deep-rooted exploitative dynamics that have caused the divisions and the gap between rich and poor that has been so cruelly highlighted during this difficult year. Daily news updates, meanwhile, tell a story made of different facets and perspectives, many of them highlighting inequality of opportunity and the need to protect the weakest. Monday morning headlines reveal that Spain, Singapore and the Philippines are gearing up for their vaccination campaigns. Mexico, it appears, will be the first Latin American country and the fourth in the world, after the UK, Bahrain, Canada and the US, to authorise emergency use of one of the just-released vaccines. The media also reported that the EU is debating whether to donate 5% of its COVID-19 vaccines to poor nations, and that both the UK and the US are assuring the public that politicians will not jump the queue for their inoculation. Mostly it's sad news, with record numbers of deaths being reported in many countries, including the United States, while the daily toll in Italy is never below a chilling 500 mark. Thus, billions of people across the continents will be asked to limit Christmas celebrations and stay at home to try and prevent more and more grief while the economy continues to flounder. One sad news item that mostly went unnoticed on Monday was that in a poor country like Sierra Leone, families are increasingly marrying off their young daughters to ease finances, thus depriving girls of an education and a chance to dream and to hope. I'm Linda Bordoni.
Elsewhere in world news, Argentina's lower house of parliament voted late last week in favor of a bill which would legalize abortion in the Latin American nation. In response, the nation's Catholic bishops say the vote did not reflect the opinion of the majority of Argentinians and that lobby groups are exerting massive pressure over representatives. Devin Watkins has this report.
Argentina's Chamber of Deputies has voted in favor of a proposed law that would permit abortions to be carried out until the 14th week of pregnancy. The lower house of Congress passed the bill 131 to 117 on Friday. The bill now goes to the Senate for a vote, which is expected before the end of the year in order to become law. Bishop Alberto Bochate, an auxiliary bishop of La Plata, spoke to Vatican News about the vote. The president of the Health Commission of the Argentine Bishops' Conference said the country's bishops thought that the bill would have received even more support in the chamber, so he said that came as a surprise. "We are dealing with a lot of pressure from lobby groups," he said. Bishop Bochate added that the legalization of abortion does not sit well with the overall culture of Argentina. Those less well-off, he noted, have always been in favor of procreation. "This is not a law for the poor," he said, but comes from a bourgeoisie spirit which refuses to take responsibility for one's actions. The bishop pointed to Pope Francis's recent letter to an Argentinian women's network which works to protect the unborn. Bishop Bochate noted that the Pope spoke about hired killers who eliminate a human life in order to solve a problem. The Pope's teaching is clear about our throwaway culture, said the bishop. Legalizing abortion doesn't solve anything. We must work in the fields of education and culture and teach young people responsibility, especially young men. Argentina's lead bishop on health issues then expressed his hopes that the pro-life cause will win out in the Senate when the abortion bill comes to a vote. In the chamber, we saw politicians of the right and left, lay people and Catholics basically of all political leanings, he said, vote against the bill. We are comforted by the fact that many people who are not Catholic share our desire to protect life. Bishop Bochate concluded by making clear that Argentina's bishops and Catholic faithful will work hard to prevent the legalization of abortion. In the Senate, the difference in numbers of the two sides is even more razor-thin, he said. We need to speak with all senators, pray, and make it known that the majority of Argentinians do not want abortion legalized. I'm Devin Watkins.
Iran is facing international criticism after executing Ruhollah Zam, a dissident accused of inspiring nationwide protests in 2017. Nathan Morley has that story.
Mr. Zam, who was hanged on Saturday, had been living in exile in France until last year, when he was lured back to Tehran by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Soon after his arrival in the country, authorities snatched control of his Telegram channel, which boasted over 1 million subscribers who were exchanging stories and opinions about the Iranian government. After his arrest, he appeared in a series of so-called confessions which were aired on national television. His channel and website were used to spread information about the protests in 2017, including their timings and location. The network became a major headache for the authorities. Dozens of people were killed, injured and arrested during those protests. Iranian officials have accused the United States, as well as Tehran's regional rival, Saudi Arabia, and government opponents living in exile, of stoking up the unrest as regional protests over economic hardships spread nationwide. In June, Zam was convicted of corruption on earth. It's a frequent charge used in cases which involve threats to the Iranian government. In response, the French government has described his sentence as a serious blow to freedom of expression and to press freedom in Iran. Meanwhile, the execution has prompted 4 EU countries to withdraw from an online business forum in the Iranian capital, Tehran. The ambassadors boycotting the forum are from France, Germany, Italy and Austria. For Vatican News, this is Nathan Morley reporting.
And briefly in other world news, Ethiopia sent civil servants in Tigray back to work on Monday and ordered gun owners to disarm as Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government sought to restore normality in the northern region after weeks of war. In church news, the church in Singapore is marking 200 years in the country by inviting all its faithful to renew their faith and relaunch their missionary zeal. The year-long Jubilee celebration, dubbed Catholic 200 SG, officially kicked off yesterday, Sunday, with a Mass by Archbishop William Goh of Singapore, which was broadcast online. The inauguration included the launch of the Jubilee website and the logo, and the screening of a documentary on the social impact of the Catholic Church in the smallest Southeast Asian nation. Robin Gomes tells us more.
The theme of the Jubilee year, Ignite and Shine with Faith, is in line with the pastoral vision of the Archdiocese of Singapore to shape a more vibrant evangelizing and missionary church. Several events during the year will focus on the renewal of faith through 4 main actions, namely deepening, discerning, witnessing, and celebrating. The celebrations will end on December the 11th, 2021, with a Mass celebrated simultaneously in all of Singapore's parishes. Christians comprise about 15% of Singapore's 5.6 million population that is largely Buddhist and Chinese. The Archdiocese has 360,000 Catholics spread across 32 parishes. British statesman and diplomat Sir Stamford Raffles is credited with founding modern Singapore in 1819 as a trading post of the British Empire. 2 years later, French Catholic priest Father Laurent Marie-Joseph Imbert of the Paris Foreign Mission Society stepped on Singapore's shores on December 11, 1821, marking the birth of the Catholic Church in the port city. He was martyred in 1839 in Korea during the Christian persecution in the country. He was among the 103 Korean martyrs that Saint Pope John Paul II canonized in Seoul, Korea on May the 6th, 1984. Conferences, talks, and events will be organized by church organizations on topics such as education, business ethics, social responsibility, serving the poor, strengthening family relationships, and interreligious dialogue. The Jubilee will culminate with an 8-day festival from December 4th to 11th, 2021. Most activities will take place in the 4 main churches of Singapore. I am Robin Gomes.
Finally, the life-sized ceramic statues that make up the nativity scene in St. Peter's Square hold a cultural heritage not immediately visible to the eye, adding to the excitement and anticipation they bring as they recount the story of the birth of the baby Jesus. Francesca Merlo has more on that story.
The giant ceramic sculptures lit up on Friday the 11th of December in St. Peter's Square are there to represent and illuminate the story of the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ, reflecting the anticipation of his coming. Pope Francis noted during his Angelus on Sunday that the expectation we feel throughout Advent is a joyful one, at the heart of the Christian story. It is precisely this joy that the crib in St. Peter's Square is there to bring, but this particular nativity scene tells of another story too, one that is not captured with a single look. It is perhaps this hidden story that has caused the criticism of some onlookers who have reacted negatively to what they perceive as a representation of the birth of Jesus that looks so different to more traditional ones. The contemporary nativity scene is in fact slightly different. Made up of a small part of a 52-piece collection, the nativity scene is composed of life-size ceramic statues made in the typical style of Castelli in Italy, internationally known for its ceramic artwork. It took over 10 years for the students and teachers of the F.A. Grue Art Institute of the town to build and complete the full collection, from 1965 to 1975. One particular figure, which has been described by some as astronaut-like, has raised numerous questions, as it is not made clear who or what it is representing. In his letter Admirabile Signum, signed in December 2019, Pope Francis wrote that it is customary to add many symbolic figures to our nativity scenes, and that on top of these, children but adults too often love to add to the nativity scene other figures that have no apparent connection with the gospel accounts. Yet, each in its own way, these fanciful additions show that in the new world inaugurated by Jesus, there is room for whatever is truly human and for all God's creatures. The inauguration of the nativity scene, along with the Christmas tree, a spruce from one of Slovenia's best preserved forests, took place with limited people due to the coronavirus pandemic. For this reason, Pope Francis said, icons of Christmas are now more than ever a sign of hope for the people of Rome and for those pilgrims who will have the opportunity to come and admire them. I am Francesca Merlo.
And that brings us just about to the end of this edition of Vatican and World News. For more on these and other stories, and to hear this broadcast as a podcast, you can visit our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. You can always catch the latest updates on our Facebook page and on Twitter. Many thanks this afternoon go to our producers and sound engineers in studio who make this broadcast possible. In the Vatican, I'm Christopher Wells.